Tonight, someone will pour a drink and call it relaxing. A glass after work, a toast at dinner, a small ritual so normal it barely feels ancient. But alcohol is older than cities, older than writing, and maybe older than farming itself. Before humans had money, they had fermented fruit. Before kings recorded taxes, people were already sharing strange bubbling drinks. Before temples had priests, gatherings may have had something cloudy, sour, and alive in a vessel. And that is the strange part. Alcohol was not just a way to get drunk. For early humans, it may have been food, medicine, payment, ceremony, social glue, and a doorway into the sacred. It helped people gather, trust, trade, worship, celebrate, mourn, and obey. It sat somewhere between survival and magic. So when did people start making alcohol? The honest answer is unsettling. We do not know the first time. The first alcohol probably left no monument, no inscription, no royal tomb, just fruit splitting open in the heat, wild yeast landing on sugar, and a smell that told some hungry animal there was energy inside. Your relationship with alcohol begins before humans were human. In forests millions of years ago, ripe fruit did not stay perfect for long. It fell, it bruised, it fermented. Yeast turned sugar into ethanol. To a primate looking for calories, that faint alcoholic smell was not a warning. It was a signal. Food. The biologist Robert Dudley called this the drunken monkey hypothesis. Not because ancient apes were stumbling around like cartoon drunks, but because ethanol may have helped fruit-eating animals find ripe, calorie-rich food. A little alcohol in the smell of fruit meant sugar was available. It meant energy. It meant survival. And then, around 10 million years ago, one branch of African apes developed a stronger ability to metabolize ethanol. That branch eventually led to gorillas, chimpanzees, and humans. That is the first wait. What moment? Your body may have been prepared for alcohol long before your ancestors knew how to make a cup. But smelling fermented fruit is not the same as brewing. Making alcohol means something else. It means humans noticed that sweetness could transform. It means they learned that grain, honey, fruit, rice, or tubers could become a drink that changed the body and the mood. It means they waited. They stored, they repeated. Fermentation was invisible magic. You put something ordinary into a vessel. You came back later, it had become something else. No fire was needed, no metal, no machine. Just sugar, water, warmth, and yeast so tiny no ancient person could see it. To them, the drink was alive. It bubbled, it smelled, it warmed the chest. It changed speech, courage, memory, and fear. In a world filled with spirits, gods, ancestors, and hidden forces, fermentation must have looked like proof that unseen powers were real. The oldest clear evidence depends on what kind of alcohol you mean and how strict you want to be. Some of the most famous early evidence comes from Raqefet Cave in Mount Carmel, in modern Israel. Archaeologists studying stone mortars connected to the Natufian culture found evidence that people may have made a fermented cereal drink there roughly 13,000 years ago. The site was also a burial place. That matters. If the interpretation is right, some of the earliest beer-like drinks were not made for a casual evening. They were connected to the dead. Imagine that. Before wheat fields fully changed human life, before villages grew into cities, before writing carved words into clay, people may have been making a rough beer for funerals. Not clear golden beer, not cold, not fizzy. Probably thick, cloudy, sour, and low in alcohol. But powerful enough to matter. Powerful enough to gather people around the dead. That is the second wait. What moment? Alcohol may have entered human culture not as entertainment, but as a ritual technology for grief. This does not mean every archaeologist agrees on every detail. Ancient residues are hard to interpret. Stone mortars can be used for more than one thing. Porridge, bread, and beer can leave overlapping traces, so the evidence must be handled carefully. But the pattern is difficult to ignore. Where early humans gathered for ritual, feasting often appears nearby, and where feasting appears, fermentation is never far away. Another important site is Jiahu in China, where chemical archaeologist Patrick McGovern and other researchers analyzed residues from ancient vessels. The evidence suggests that by around 9,000 years ago, people in Neolithic China were making a mixed fermented beverage from ingredients such as rice, honey, fruit, and perhaps other plants. This was not modern beer or modern wine. It was more like a prehistoric cocktail made by accident, observation, and tradition. And that reveals something important. Alcohol was not invented once by one genius, in one place, with one recipe. It probably emerged again and again, wherever humans had sugar, starch, containers, and patience. In one region, honey could become mead. In another, grapes could become wine. In another, barley could become beer. In another, rice and mold-based starters could create entirely different fermentation traditions. Human beings did not discover alcohol because they were bored. They discovered it because nature kept leaving clues. Fruit rotted, honey diluted with rainwater fermented, grain soaked and sprouted, rice changed inside jars. The world was quietly brewing before people understood why. The third weight. What moment is this? Alcohol may have helped teach humans the power of storage. A hunter-gatherer eats what is available. A brewer thinks ahead. You need a container. You need grain or fruit. You need time. You need a group willing to wait for a future reward. That sounds simple. It is not. Waiting changes society. If a drink takes days to transform, then someone must protect it. Someone must remember the method. Someone must decide who gets it. Someone must organize the gathering where it will be consumed. A fermented drink is not just a drink. It is a social event waiting in a jar. This is why alcohol becomes so important in early human communities. It did several things at once. First, it provided calories. Ancient beer could be thick and grain-rich, almost like liquid bread. For laborers, farmers, and travelers, that mattered. It could fill the stomach and supply energy. Second, fermentation could make some foods easier to digest. It could change flavor, texture, and nutrition. It could preserve calories for a short time in a world without refrigeration. Third, alcohol altered emotion. That was dangerous, but it was also useful. It lowered suspicion. It softened hierarchy. It made songs louder, stories easier, strangers less strange, and alliances feel warmer. Around a shared vessel, people could become a group. The psychologist Robin Dunbar has argued that social bonding in humans depends on shared rituals, laughter, music, synchronized behavior, and emotional release. Alcohol fits easily into that world because it turns ordinary eating into a shared state. You do not just consume together, you change together. That matters when small groups become larger groups. A family can trust through blood. A village needs more. A temple needs more still. A kingdom needs rituals powerful enough to make strangers behave like they belong to the same story. Alcohol helped create that story. Not alone, never alone, but it helped. Feasts are one of the oldest political tools in the world. A leader who can provide food and drink can gather people, reward loyalty, settle tensions, arrange marriages, recruit workers, and display power without raising a weapon. Give people a feast, and you are not just feeding them. You are proving that you control abundance. That is the dark human logic behind celebration. A feast looks generous from the outside, but generosity can become control. The person who fills the cup may also decide who belongs, who owes, and who is excluded. This is where alcohol becomes more than pleasure. It becomes power. In Mesopotamia, beer was everywhere. By the time writing appears in southern Iraq, beer is already part of administration. One of the famous early clay tablets from around 3100 to 3000 BC records beer given to workers as rations. Think about that. Some of the earliest writing on Earth is not poetry, not philosophy, not a love letter, and not a heroic myth. It is accounting. And part of what was being counted was beer. That is the fourth weight. What moment? Civilization learned to write partly because someone needed to keep track of food, labor, and drink. In Sumer, beer was connected to daily life, temple estates, labor systems, and the gods. The beer goddess Ninkasi appears in a famous hymn that also preserves brewing knowledge in poetic form. Scholars debate how directly it should be read as a recipe, but its importance is clear. Beer was sacred enough to sing about, and ordinary enough to pay workers with. That combination is powerful, sacred and practical, divine and daily, a gift of the gods and a ration for labor. Ancient people did not separate these things the way modern people often do. Work, worship, food, medicine, and politics overlapped. A drink could belong to all of them at once. In ancient Egypt, beer was also central. It appears in offerings, household life, labor rations, and religious imagination. Egyptian beer was not like a modern bottled drink. It could be cloudy, nourishing, and made from grain products. It could be part of everyday diet. To a modern viewer, the idea of workers receiving beer may sound like a party at a construction site, but that is the wrong image. Ancient beer was often lower in alcohol, thicker, and more food-like than many modern drinks. It was not always a luxury. It could be a staple, a calorie system, a social system, a ritual system, all in one. And then there is the medical side. For most of history, water safety was uneven. This does not mean ancient people only drank alcohol because water was always deadly. That is too simple. Many ancient societies knew clean water sources and used them. But fermented drinks could still offer advantages. Boiling, fermentation, acidity, and alcohol could reduce some risks, depending on the drink and the process. More importantly, alcohol became a carrier, a way to extract plants, a way to preserve herbs, a way to turn bitterness into medicine, a way to make a ritual feel physically real. When a drink warms your body, numbs pain, and changes your mind, it is easy to understand why ancient healers, priests, and families saw it as more than chemistry. It felt like transformation, and transformation is the heart of ritual. A child becomes an adult. A stranger becomes kin. A dead person becomes an ancestor. A harvest becomes a feast. A grain becomes beer. A grape becomes wine. A person becomes brave. Fermentation gave ancient people a visible metaphor for change. That is why alcohol appears near weddings, funerals, offerings, treaties, festivals, initiations, and sacrifices across so many cultures. It marks thresholds. It says the ordinary world is being interrupted. You are crossing from one state into another. The fifth weight. What moment is that alcohol may have helped humans believe in hidden order? To an ancient person, fermentation proved that invisible forces could enter matter and change it. You could not see yeast, you could not see microbes, but you could see the result. The vessel foamed. The smell changed. The drink gained force. The mind shifted. Modern science calls this microbial metabolism. Ancient people might call it blessing, spirit, breath, God, or mystery. Both are attempts to explain transformation. This is why alcohol sits in such a strange place in human history. It is biological, but also symbolic. It is nutritious, but also intoxicating. It can bond people, but also harm them. It can make a feast sacred, but also make power easier to manipulate. The same cup can welcome you into a group, or trap you inside one. That darker side matters. Alcohol can make people easier to persuade. It can blur memory. It can lower resistance. It can intensify loyalty, aggression, grief, and joy. In the hands of early elites, ceremonial drinking could help mobilize labor and reinforce hierarchy. A feast can look like freedom while teaching obedience. You drink with the group. You sing with the group. You owe the group. And if everyone drinks from the same vessel, the vessel becomes a symbol of belonging. That is still familiar today. A toast at a wedding, a drink after a funeral, a round bought for friends, a bottle opened to celebrate success, a glass raised before a risky decision. Modern people may not think of these as ancient rituals, but the structure is old. The drink marks the moment. It tells your brain that something is changing. And maybe that is the deepest answer to why alcohol mattered. Humans did not only need calories, they needed meaning. They needed ways to turn fear into ceremony, hunger into sharing, strangers into allies, death into memory, and time into tradition. Alcohol helped because it was transformation you could taste. It came from rot, but felt like power. It came from decay, but created celebration. It came from invisible microbes, but ancient people saw spirit. This is the strange truth. Alcohol was important not because ancient people were foolish or weak. It was important because it solved several human problems at once. It gathered the group. It rewarded labor. It carried calories. It marked rituals. It impressed followers. It comforted grief. It made invisible forces feel real. And because it worked, humans kept it. Across continents, across crops, across gods, across empires, every civilization changed the recipe, but the pattern remained. Something sweet was left to transform. People gathered around it. The drink entered the body, and the group became something more than separate bodies in the dark. So when someone pours a drink tonight and calls it relaxing, they are not doing something new. They are touching one of the oldest human technologies. Not the wheel, not the sword, not the written word. A controlled decay, a social spell, a tiny ancient ritual in a glass. Because long before humans understood alcohol, alcohol understood humans.